The relentless September sun scorched the dusty main street of Copper Creek, a modest frontier settlement tucked beneath the towering Rocky Mountains. The year was 1887, and the town showed the signs of many seasons, with weathered wooden buildings, paint-chipped facades, and hitching posts smoothed by endless rains, all blanketed in a fine, gritty layer of dust. Standing before the formidable figure of Ezranor Duskhaven, a rancher renowned and feared across 3 counties, was young Darianth Ironwright, just 14 years old. Darianth's attire consisted of little more than mended rags, his boots so worn that his toes were almost visible through the leather. His face, thin from weeks of meager meals, bore an expression of desperate resolve that seemed far too old for his age. Behind Darianth, gripping his torn sleeve, was his younger sister, Lyrielle. At 9 years old, she was petite for her age, with platinum blonde hair that shimmered in the sunlight despite its disheveled state. Her large blue eyes, wide with fear and bewilderment, flickered between her brother and the towering, intimidating rancher before them. She clutched a small, threadbare doll, the last remnant of their life before they became orphans. In the unforgiving frontier, Ezranor Duskhaven stood at least 6 feet tall, his broad shoulders filling out a well-fitted brown coat despite the heat. His face was as rugged as old leather, marked by years of relentless sun and harsh winds. A thick, graying mustache shadowed his upper lip, and his dark eyes seemed to pierce right through a person, as if evaluating their very soul. His wide-brimmed hat cast a shadow over his features, making his expression even more inscrutable. "Please, Mr. Duskhaven," Darianth's voice wavered with desperation, though he tried to stand tall and speak with an authority beyond his years. "I understand that what I'm asking might sound impossible, but I'm pleading with you. The Ravenson gang is after me. They believe I saw something I shouldn't have when they robbed the bank last month." The boy's hands shook slightly as he spoke, but his voice grew firmer with each word. "I overheard them at the saloon 2 nights ago. They plan to silence me before I can tell anyone what I witnessed. But Lyrielle, she knows nothing. She's innocent in all of this." Ezranor's rugged hands rested on his gun belt, his fingers tapping slowly against the leather. His expression remained stoic, revealing nothing of his thoughts. Behind him, his horse, a magnificent black stallion named Thunder, pawed the ground impatiently, eager to return to the open range. "I'm not asking for charity, sir," Darianth continued, his voice becoming more urgent. "I know you have your own ranch to manage, your own challenges to face, but please, take Lyrielle with you. Give her a chance at a better life. She's intelligent. She can work. She can learn. She won't be any burden." Lyrielle tugged insistently at her brother's shirt, her voice a mere whisper. "Darianth, what are you talking about? I refuse to leave without you. We swore to Marethin and Papa that we'd stick together, don't you recall?" The memory of their departed parents caused a noticeable shiver to run through Darianth. His jaw tightened, and for an instant his mask of adult responsibility slipped, exposing the terrified child within. However, he swiftly regained his composure, crouching down to Lyrielle's height and holding her tiny hands. "Lyrielle, hear me out," he murmured, his tone gentle despite the pressing circumstances. "Adults sometimes must make tough choices to safeguard those they cherish. Mr. Duskhaven owns a vast ranch with ample room. You'd have a proper bed, 3 square meals a day, and perhaps even attend school, as Mama always dreamed." Lyrielle's cheeks, streaked with dirt, were now wet with tears. "But what about you, Darianth?" "What will become of you?" Darianth attempted a smile, though his own eyes were welling up. "Don't fret about me, little one. I'm resilient, remember? I'll manage. Perhaps I'll journey west, seek work in California or Oregon. But you deserve more than a life on the streets, scavenging for food and sheltering in abandoned buildings." Ezranor Duskhaven had been silent throughout the exchange, his dark eyes taking in every gesture, every word, every emotion that passed between the siblings. Around them, the townsfolk went about their daily routines. The blacksmith's hammer echoed from his forge. A wagon laden with supplies rumbled past, and in the distance a dog barked. Yet in this small circle of despair, time seemed to stand still. At last, the rancher spoke, his voice rough from years of commanding cattle and weathering the wind. "You claim the Ravenson gang's after you. That's a grave accusation." "Jed Ravenson and his men don't leave survivors." "That's true," Darianth acknowledged, standing tall and wiping his nose with his sleeve. "But why are you so certain they know it was you who witnessed them? I was concealed behind some barrels near the general store when they rushed out of the bank." The tall one with the scar on his cheek, he looked right at me. Our eyes met for just a moment, but it was enough. I saw the recognition in his gaze. He knew I could identify him. "And you're prepared to give up your life for this child?" Ezranor's gaze shifted to Lyrielle, who was now openly weeping into her doll. "She's all I have left in this world, Mr. Duskhaven. Our parents succumbed to the cholera outbreak last spring. We've been fending for ourselves ever since, trying to cope. But this is a matter of life and death, and I won't let her suffer for something that's not her fault." The rancher fell silent for a long moment, his eyes moving between the two children. The afternoon sun dipped lower, stretching shadows across the dusty street. A tumbleweed drifted by, propelled by a gentle breeze that carried the aroma of sage and the promise of rain from afar. "Suppose I mentioned that I might consider taking both of you in?" Ezranor said at last, his voice carefully measured. Darianth's eyes grew wide with astonishment, then quickly narrowed with doubt. "Both of us? But, sir, I explained that I'd only bring trouble to your door. The Ravenson gang won't give up easily. They'll track us down." "Leave the Ravenson gang to me," Ezranor replied, tipping his hat back slightly. "I've faced outlaws before. My ranch is fortified, and I have enough hands who can handle trouble if it finds us." For the first time since the conversation started, a glimmer of hope shone in Darianth's eyes, but it was swiftly dampened by exhaustion. His brief life had taught him that if something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. "But why would you do that, sir?" "Take both of us in? You don't even know us. We could be lying or trouble or—" "I have my reasons," Ezranor agreed. "Here's what I propose, boy. You and your sister come with me to the ranch. Give it a month. If the Ravenson gang's truly after you, we'll find out soon enough. If they come, we'll face them. If they don't," he shrugged, leaving the rest unsaid. Lyrielle had stopped crying and was gazing up at the rancher with a blend of hope and fear. Would we? Would we really get to stay together? Ezranor looked down at her, and for a moment a hint of kindness softened his stern features. "That's the plan, little miss." Darianth stood up slowly, his thoughts racing. Everything seemed too good to be true, but what other choice did he have? The Ravenson gang was real. He had seen them with his own eyes. The scarred man had definitely recognized him. And winter was approaching. He and Lyrielle wouldn't endure another season on the streets. What would you expect from us in return? Darianth asked cautiously. I mean, if you're taking both of us in, feeding us, providing shelter, there must be something you want in exchange. Work, Ezranor replied simply. My ranch is vast, and there's always plenty to do. You look strong for your age, and everyone on my spread pulls their weight. The girl can assist with cooking, cleaning, and tending the chickens. Nothing too demanding, but everyone contributes. It sounded fair, more than fair. It sounded like a dream come true. But Darianth had learned not to trust dreams. When do we leave? He asked. Now, Ezranor said, untying Thunder's reins from the hitching post. I've got a supply wagon passing through in about an hour. You two can ride in the back. My homestead is roughly a day's journey from here, nestled in the foothills. Darianth surveyed the dusty thoroughfare of Copper Creek, observing the dilapidated structures and weary expressions of the townsfolk. This place had never truly felt like home. Home had always been wherever he and Lyrielle were together, whether it was in an abandoned barn, beneath a bridge, or in the alley behind the bakery. Lyrielle, he said, crouching down beside his sister once more. What are your thoughts? Would you like to accompany Mr. Duskhaven? Lyrielle hugged her doll tightly and nodded gently. If you're joining us, Darianth, I won't go without you. I'll be right by your side, I promise. Ezranor effortlessly mounted his horse, gazing down at the two children from his elevated stance. There's just one thing you both must grasp, he declared, his voice adopting a more grave tone. Once we depart this town, once you come to my ranch, there's no turning back. You'll be under my protection, but you'll also be under my guidance. You'll follow my instructions promptly and without question. Is that understood? Darianth nodded right away. Yes, sir, we comprehend. Excellent. Now gather your belongings. We depart in an hour. As Ezranor rode off to prepare for their departure, Darianth and Lyrielle stood alone in the dusty street. The weight of their impending journey was beginning to settle in. Darianth, Lyrielle murmured softly, do you genuinely believe the dangerous men are after you? Darianth looked down at his sister, his heart aching at the trust and innocence in her eyes. The truth was, he wasn't entirely certain. He had witnessed something that fateful night during the bank robbery, but whether the Ravenson gang truly knew he could identify them remained unclear. But the mere possibility was enough. He couldn't gamble with Lyrielle's life on uncertainty. I believe we'll be safer with Mr. Duskhaven, he said at last. And even if the dangerous men don't come, at least we'll have shelter and food. They spent the next hour collecting their meager possessions, a few spare clothes, a small knife that had belonged to their father, and a locket containing their mother's picture. Everything fit neatly into a single burlap sack. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting the mountains in hues of orange and purple, a supply wagon rumbled down the main street. The driver was a weathered old man with tobacco-stained teeth and rough, calloused hands. Ezranor rode alongside the wagon, signaling for Darianth and Lyrielle to climb into the back among the sacks of grain and barrels of supplies. This is it, Darianth whispered to Lyrielle as they settled into the wagon bed. Our new life begins now. Lyrielle snuggled close to her brother, still clutching her doll. I'm frightened, Darianth. So am I, he confessed, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. But we'll manage. With each other, they had everything they needed. As the wagon started to move, taking them away from Copper Creek and towards an unknown destiny, neither child paid attention to the scheming look in Ezranor Duskhaven's eyes or the faint smile that hinted at the corners of his mouth. The initial phase of his scheme was finished. Now, the true challenge began. Their path to Ezranor Duskhaven's ranch led them through some of the most breathtaking and relentless landscapes in the region. As the supply wagon groaned and jolted along the rugged mountain paths, Darianth and Lyrielle experienced the untamed beauty and severe truths of the American frontier for the first time. The scenery slowly shifted from the dusty plains near Copper Creek to undulating hills blanketed with shrubs and wild grasses. As they ascended into the foothills, pine trees started to emerge, their deep green branches offering patches of relief from the sun. The air became cooler and thinner, carrying the sharp scent of mountain snow, even in the late summer warmth. Darianth couldn't help but be awestruck by the immensity of it all. Having lived most of his life in small frontier settlements, he had never envisioned such a landscape. Eagles glided overhead, their calls resonating off the canyon walls. In the distance, elk fed calmly in mountain meadows, lifting their heads wearily as the wagon passed, but only fleeing if the travelers came too near. "Lyrielle, look," he murmured, gesturing towards a group of deer drinking from a sparkling stream that flowed alongside the trail. "Have you ever witnessed anything so stunning?" Lyrielle, who had been largely quiet since leaving town, leaned over the side of the wagon, her eyes wide with wonder. Despite her apprehension and doubts about their circumstances, she couldn't help but be captivated by the natural magnificence around them. "It's like a scene from one of Marethan's fairy tales," she murmured in return. As dusk fell, they set up camp in a secluded grove of aspen trees. The wagon driver, who had introduced himself simply as Old Pelorin, unharnessed the horses and started preparing a modest supper of beans and hardtack over a small campfire. Ezranor had been mostly quiet during the journey, riding beside the wagon on his black stallion, his gaze continually sweeping the surrounding landscape. "Mr. Duskhaven," Darianth asked as they sat around the dancing campfire, "how much longer until we reach your ranch?" "We should arrive by mid-morning tomorrow," Ezranor responded, his weathered face lit by the orange flames. "My property encompasses most of the valley. You'll see it when we reach the top of the next ridge. I've been expanding it for nearly 20 years now." "It must be quite impressive," Darianth remarked, attempting to engage in conversation and learn more about the man who was providing them with refuge. "It is," Ezranor confirmed, but provided no additional information. Instead, he shifted his focus to Lyrielle, who was sitting silently next to her brother, still holding her doll. "What is your doll's name, dear?" Lyrielle glanced up timidly. "Her name is Ailara," she replied. "She belonged to my mother when she was young." "That's a lovely name," Ezranor remarked, his voice softer than Darianth had ever heard it. "I imagine she's been on many adventures with you." For the first time since departing Copper Creek, Lyrielle's face lit up with a smile. "She has," the girl confirmed. "Darianth and I share tales with her about all the places we've visited and the sights we've seen." "What kinds of stories do you tell?" Lyrielle's eyes sparkled as she recounted their escapades. She described how they had once spent a week sheltering in an abandoned mine shaft during a fierce storm. She recalled how Darianth had bartered his finest boots for food when she was ill with a high fever. She remembered how they had learned to catch fish with their bare hands when they couldn't afford fishing tackle. As Lyrielle spoke, Darianth observed that Ezranor was engrossed, his dark eyes fixed on the little girl's face. There was an unreadable quality in the rancher's expression, neither kindness nor cruelty, but rather a thoughtful assessment, as if he were pondering something deeply. You two have endured quite a bit for such young travelers, Ezranor noted, when Lyrielle finished her stories. We look out for each other, Darianth asserted. We always have. I can see that, Ezranor acknowledged. He rose to his feet, brushing off his pants. We should get some rest. Tomorrow will be demanding. That night, they slept under the open sky, wrapped in blankets provided by old Pelorin. Darianth remained awake for a long time, gazing at the endless night sky and pondering what the next day might bring. Beside him, Lyrielle slept soundly for the first time in many weeks, her small hand still clutching Alara the doll. The following morning broke clear and crisp, with a faint frost on the grass that vanished as soon as the sun's rays touched it. After a swift breakfast of coffee and leftover beans, they resumed their journey, ascending steadily through increasingly challenging terrain. It was close to noon when they finally reached the ridge that Ezranor had mentioned, and the sight that unfolded before them was breathtaking. The valley below seemed like a vision, expansive and verdant, with a river meandering through its heart like a shimmering ribbon. Dotted across the valley floor were countless cattle, appearing as tiny specks from their vantage point. And there, nestled against a cluster of cottonwood trees near the river, stood the ranch buildings. Even from afar, Darianth could tell that this was no ordinary farmstead. The main house was spacious and sturdy, with a broad porch and what appeared to be a second floor. There were several other structures, a barn, bunkhouses, a corral, all arranged in a tidy, orderly fashion that spoke of success and meticulous planning. "Welcome to the Blackwood Ranch," Ezranor announced, riding up beside the wagon. His voice brimmed with unmistakable pride, and for the first time since their meeting, the rancher's face displayed genuine emotion. "It's astonishing," Darianth murmured. "I've never witnessed anything of this scale. It took me 2 decades to build this empire," Ezranor declared. "I began with just a horse, a firearm, and a dream. Now, I possess the largest estate in 3 counties, the finest cattle, the best horses, everything a man could desire." There was a subtle undertone in his voice that prompted Darianth to study him more intently. "Everything a man could desire," Ezranor repeated. Yet Darianth sensed an emptiness. He couldn't quite pinpoint it, but there was a profound loneliness in Ezranor's eyes that no amount of land or livestock could alleviate. The journey down into the valley took another hour, following a well-maintained trail that bore signs of frequent use by wagons and riders. As they neared the ranch buildings, Darianth noticed more details. The sturdy construction of the barns, the orderly fences enclosing the corral, and the meticulously tended vegetable garden behind the main house. Several ranch hands emerged to welcome them as the wagon entered the main yard. They were a varied group, ranging from young to old, some clearly seasoned cowhands, while others seemed like they might have been farmers or shopkeepers before joining Ezranor's crew. Despite their differences, they all shared a respectful weariness around their boss, nodding politely but maintaining a respectful distance. "Solendor," Ezranor called out to a middle-aged Mexican man who appeared to be the ranch foreman. "Attend to the supplies. I'll be giving our new arrivals a tour." "As you wish, patron," Solendor replied, but Darianth noticed him stealing curious glances at the 2 children as he began overseeing the unloading of the wagon. Ezranor assisted Lyrielle down from the wagon, his large hands gentle as he helped her to the ground. "What are your thoughts, young lady? Quite different from town, isn't it?" Lyrielle nodded, her eyes wide with wonder as she absorbed the bustling activity of the ranch. "It's so vast," she whispered. "Indeed it is. And if you're to make this your home, You'll need to familiarize yourselves with the layout. Come along, both of you. Let me show you where you'll be residing." He guided them towards a smaller building, separate from the main bunkhouses. It was solidly built but modest, featuring 2 small rooms and a stone fireplace. "This used to be my office when the ranch was smaller," Ezranor explained. "I had it cleared out and furnished for you. There's a bed in each room, a table, some chairs. Basic but comfortable." Darianth wandered through the little house in awe. After months of sleeping on the ground or in abandoned buildings, having an actual roof over their heads and beds to sleep in felt like an unimaginable luxury. "This is truly wonderful, Mr. Duskhaven. I can't express my gratitude enough." "Don't thank me just yet," Ezranor responded. "Remember what I said about everyone earning their keep. Tomorrow morning, you'll begin to understand what that entails. Make yourself comfortable. Roswin, Solendor's wife, will soon bring you some sustenance, and you'll find a wash basin and soap on the table if you wish to freshen up." Once Ezranor had departed, Darianth and Lyrielle stood in their new dwelling, struggling to grasp their luck. "Darianth," Lyrielle whispered. "Is this truly happening? Are we really going to call this place home?" "I believe so," Darianth responded, though a part of him remained cautious, expecting some hidden cost. "But recall what Mr. Duskhaven mentioned about contributing our fair share. We'll need to put in considerable effort to remain here." "I don't mind toiling," Lyrielle declared resolutely. "Anything is preferable to enduring constant hunger, cold, and fear." That evening, as anticipated, Roswin, a woman in her 40s with a friendly face, delivered them a substantial dinner of beef stew, fresh bread, and milk. Her English was limited, but her inviting smile and tender demeanor made both children feel at ease. After they had eaten their fill, she returned with clean garments that, while not new, were in much better condition than anything they had worn in months. "Mañana," she said, gesturing to herself and then to Lyrielle. "You'll accompany me, Nina. Learn to assist in the kitchen, understand?" Lyrielle nodded enthusiastically. The idea of learning to cook in a proper kitchen, rather than foraging for leftovers, filled her with joy. That night, as they retired to their respective beds, actual beds with real mattresses and clean sheets, Darianth reflected on their astonishing change in circumstances. Just a day prior, they had been homeless orphans confronting an uncertain and perilous future. Now they had shelter, food, and the prospect of honest labor. It seemed almost too good to be true, and Darianth's past experiences had taught him that such things usually were. But as he drifted off to sleep, enveloped by the tranquil sounds of the ranch winding down for the night, the distant lowing of cattle, the soft whinnies of horses in the corral, and the rustling of the wind through the cottonwood trees, he allowed himself to hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they had finally found a place to build a genuine life. Before dawn, a bell ringing across the ranch stirred him from his slumber. Outside his window he could see lanterns moving in the darkness as the ranch hands began their daily tasks. Moments later there was a knock at their door. "Time to rise," Ezranor's voice called from the other side. "The day begins early on a working ranch." Darianth quickly dressed and roused Lyrielle, helping her into the clothes that Roswin had provided the previous night. When they opened the door, they found Ezranor awaiting them, already attired for a day's work in practical clothing and sporting a wide-brimmed hat to shield him from the sun. "First lesson," he began without delay. "On this ranch, we commence work with the sunrise and cease only when the sun sets. There's always a task to be done, And everyone, including you two, has duties to fulfill. He guided them to the central corral where a few of the ranch hands were already busy saddling horses and getting ready for the day's chores. Darianth, you'll be assisting Solendor and the other hands, he instructed. You'll begin with basic tasks: repairing fences, cleaning out stalls, and feeding the horses. It's not complex work, but it's crucial and needs to be done. Understand? Yes, sir, Darianth responded, attempting to conceal his anxiety. He had no experience with cattle or horses, but he was resolved to demonstrate his worth in exchange for the refuge and kindness they were receiving. Lyrielle, you'll aid Roswin in the kitchen and around the house with cooking, cleaning, and tending the garden. Think you can manage that? Yes, Mr. Duskhaven, Lyrielle replied enthusiastically. Roswin seems lovely. She is. She's been with us for 5 years now, ever since her husband started working here. She'll show you everything you need to know. For the next few hours, Darianth threw himself into his tasks with fierce determination. Solendor turned out to be a patient instructor, demonstrating how to properly clean horse stalls, fix broken fence posts, and handle the ranch horses safely. The labor was tough and messy, but Darianth had never shied away from the hard work. What counted was that he was earning his stay, proving that he and Lyrielle deserved the haven they had been granted. By noon, however, he was utterly worn out. The high altitude and physical demands of ranch work were wearing him down, his slight build already pushed to its limits. His hands were blistered, his back ached, and sweat had soaked through his shirt despite the cool mountain breeze. Take a rest, muchacho, Solendor advised gently, noticing Darianth's weariness. You're pushing yourself too hard. This isn't a competition. I'm fine, Darianth insisted, though he was unsteady on his feet. I can keep going. No, you take a break. Roswin has lunch prepared. Go eat. Rest a bit. The work will still be here when you return. Hesitantly, Darianth made his way to the main house where he found Lyrielle in the kitchen with Roswin, learning to knead bread dough. His sister appeared happier than he had seen her in months, her face glowing with pride as she displayed her newfound skills. Darianth, look what Roswin taught me, she exclaimed, holding up a small, slightly misshapen loaf. I made bread. That's fantastic, Lyrielle, Darianth said, truly delighted to see her flourishing in their new surroundings. Roswin served them a hearty lunch of soup, fresh bread, and cold milk. As they ate, she chattered away in a mix of Spanish and English, clearly thrilled to have new people to teach and care for. Lyrielle listened intently, eager to soak up every bit of knowledge. It was during this tranquil meal that Darianth first sensed something unusual. Several times he caught Roswin stealing glances at him, with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. Not unfriendly, but assessing, as if she was studying him, watching for something particular. After lunch, Darianth tackled his tasks with vigor, eager to demonstrate his worth to those who had entrusted him. The afternoon flew by in a whirlwind of physical toil, from mending a damaged gate to transporting feed to the cattle and assisting in the training of a young horse that had been challenging the more seasoned workers. It was this final assignment that proved to be the most enlightening. The horse, a lively bay mare named Tempest, had been resisting every effort to saddle her, bolting and bucking whenever someone neared with the tack. The ranch hands had been rotating in attempts to soothe her, but to no avail. She's got fire in her, I'll grant her that, one of the cowhands remarked, shaking his head as Tempest reared up again, her eyes wide with fear. Darianth was drawn to the corral fence, noticing something in the mare's demeanor. He had always possessed a knack with animals. It was one of the few skills that had benefited him and Lyrielle during their time on the streets. Strays had often guided them to food or shelter, as if sensing his sincere concern for their well-being. "She's not vicious," Darianth murmured, observing the horse's body language. "She's terrified. Something happened to her, something that made her fear people." Solandor, who had been observing from a short distance, regarded Darianth with curiosity. "Is that so? And how can you be so sure? Notice how she keeps glancing toward the gate, and the way she favors her left side when she moves. I believe someone harmed her, perhaps struck her or used spurs too harshly. She's not rebelling because she's untamed. She's rebelling because she believes we'll hurt her." Without seeking approval, Darianth climbed over the fence and into the corral. The other ranch hands retreated, clearly expecting him to make a reckless and potentially hazardous error. "Easy, girl," Darianth said gently, approaching Tempest with slow, measured steps. "Nobody here will harm you. I understand what it's like to be frightened, to be unsure of who to trust." Tempest snorted and backed away, but she didn't rear or attempt to kick. Something in Darianth's voice, in his tranquil, unhurried approach, seemed to resonate with her. "I know you can't comprehend my words," Darianth continued, halting several feet away and crouching down to appear less intimidating. "But perhaps you can sense that I mean you no harm. I've been hurt too, and I know how painful it can be." For what felt like an eternity, boy and horse regarded each other across the dusty corral. The ranch hands watched in amazement as Tempest gradually calmed, her ears perking forward and her breathing steadying. Gradually, deliberately, Darianth extended his hand toward her, palm up and fingers relaxed. "That's it, girl. I won't grab you or force you to do anything. I simply want to be your friend." Tempest took a tentative step forward, then another. Finally, she extended her neck and tenderly rubbed her muzzle against Darianth's open palm, her soft nose exploring this peculiar boy who communicated with her so compassionately. "Amazing," Solandor murmured. "For 3 days, none of us could approach within 10 feet of her." Darianth devoted the next hour to Stormward, steadily earning her trust and confidence. By the time their interaction concluded, he could gently stroke her neck and shoulders, and she had even permitted him to place a simple rope halter around her head. "You possess a unique talent, muchacho," Solandor remarked as Darianth exited the corral. "I've dedicated 3 decades to working with horses, and I have never witnessed anything like this. Animals simply need to feel secure," Darianth responded humbly. "Once they trust you, they'll follow you anywhere." It was on his way back to the bunkhouse that Darianth spotted Ezranor observing him from the porch of the main house. The rancher's expression was inscrutable, but there was a piercing intensity in his gaze that made Darianth suddenly uneasy. That evening, as the ranch began to wind down for the night, Ezranor approached the door of the small house where Darianth and Lyrielle were staying. "I need to have a word with you, boy," he stated. Outside, Darianth's heart started to pound. Had he done something amiss? Was Ezranor reconsidering his decision to take them in? They walked in silence to a small hill overlooking the main ranch. From this vantage point, they could see the entire property. The cattle grazing peacefully in the distance, the horses in the corral, and the lights beginning to glow in the bunkhouses as the hands settled in for the evening. "I heard you had a breakthrough with Stormward today," Ezranor said at last. "Yes, sir. She's not a bad horse, just frightened. I believe with time and patience, she'll come around." "Solandor tells me you have an innate ability with animals," He's never seen anything like it, Ezranor said. Darianth shrugged, uncomfortable with the compliment. I simply try to understand their emotions. Ezranor was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes scrutinizing Darianth's face in the dimming light. Tell me something, boy. If you were forced to choose between saving your own life and saving your sister's, what would you do? The question took Darianth aback. I'm sorry, sir. I mean exactly what I said. If it came down to your life, or hers, and you could only save one, which would it be? Darianth didn't pause. Hers, sir. Lyrielle's life is more valuable than mine. She's innocent. She's never harmed anyone. If something happened to me, at least she'd have a chance at a real life, even if it meant I'd die. Even then? Ezranor nodded slowly, as if Darianth's answer had confirmed something he had already suspected. And if someone told you that the only way to save her was to undertake a challenging task, something that might seem wrong on the surface, but would ultimately protect her. I'd do whatever it takes, Darianth replied without hesitation. Lyrielle is all I have in this world. I'd sacrifice anything for her. For a long stretch of time, the two remained silent, observing the sun as it sank behind the mountain ridges. The heavens were adorned with vivid hues of orange and purple, while the first stars started to emerge in the deepening twilight. Darianth, Ezranor spoke at last, his voice softer than the boy had ever heard it. Imagine if I revealed to you that the Ravenson gang was never actually pursuing you? Darianth felt the ground shift beneath him. What? What are you saying? I'm saying that the entire tale of being identified during the bank heist, of them seeking to silence you, might not be accurate. What if none of that happened? But I saw them. I was present when they robbed the bank. And that man with the scar, he stared right at me. The bank robbery did occur. That part is true. And a gang was indeed involved. But they've been apprehended. The sheriff in Copper Creek caught them just 3 days after the robbery. They're currently in jail awaiting the circuit judge's arrival. Darianth's legs suddenly felt unsteady, and he lowered himself onto a nearby rock. Then why did I consent to taking you and your sister when you believed your lives were at risk? Ezranor completed the thought for him. Because I was curious about the kind of person you truly are. I wanted to determine if you were the type of brother who would put himself in harm's way for his sister, or the kind who would use her as a pretext to achieve his own desires. The full weight of Ezranor's words began to sink in for Darianth. You fabricated it all. The entire story about bringing us to your ranch, about shielding us from the gang. No, boy. I brought you here, and I meant what I said about offering you a home if you proved yourselves deserving. But the true test wasn't about your ability to work hard or follow instructions. The test was about the kind of people you are at your core. When everything is stripped away and all that matters is what you're willing to do for the people you love, Darianth experienced a surge of relief, confusion, and anger. So there was never any genuine threat. Lyrielle was never in any real peril. She was in danger, Darianth. Both of you were. Winter is approaching, and you had no shelter, no means to support yourselves. That's a real threat, even if it doesn't involve weapons or threats. Ezranor took a seat on another rock facing Darianth across the small clearing. I've been observing both of you over the past few days. I've witnessed how you work, how you interact with the animals, how you speak to your sister, and I have seen the loyalty you share. But why? Why put us through all this? Why not simply offer to assist us directly? Because, Darianth, I needed to ascertain if you were the kind of people I could entrust with something incredibly precious to me. What do you mean? Ezranor fell silent for a long moment, his weathered face reflecting emotions that Darianth was only just beginning to grasp. Every inch of this ranch, every structure you see, I constructed with my own hands. I dedicated 2 decades to crafting something enduring, something meaningful. Yet what is the purpose of building an empire if there is no one to inherit it? Darianth's eyes widened as the weight of Ezranor's words began to settle. You have no family. You once had a wife and a son. They perished, along with your parents, in the same cholera outbreak just a few months apart. Ever since, I've been alone, grappling with the future of everything I built. Mr. Duskhaven, I'm truly sorry. I had no idea. How could you? I never speak of it. I never let it show. But the truth is, I've been searching for someone to carry on my legacy. Someone who grasps the importance of loyalty, of family, of doing what's right, even when it's challenging. Ezranor rose, his tall figure outlined against the starry sky. I've heard tales of you and your sister in town. I've heard how you've been looking out for each other since your parents passed away. And I thought perhaps you might be the kind of people who could understand the significance of this place. So the entire scheme of bringing you here, the story about the gang, it was all a test, was... And you passed, Darianth. Both of you did. The way you were willing to put yourself in harm's way for Lyrielle, the way she placed her complete trust in you, even when she was terrified, the way you both have thrown yourselves into the work here without a single complaint. That speaks volumes about your character. Darianth sat in shocked silence, attempting to absorb everything he had just heard. The relief of knowing there was no gang pursuing them was mixed with confusion about what this all meant for their future. What comes next? He asked finally. If you're willing, you and Lyrielle will become permanent members of this ranch, not as hired help or charity cases, but as family. I'd like to legally adopt both of you and make you my heirs. I want to teach you everything you need to know to manage this place when I'm gone. You want to adopt us? Truly? I do. But only if that's what you both want. I won't impose it on you. If you'd rather forge your own path, I'll provide you with supplies and money to start fresh elsewhere. The choice is yours. Darianth reflected on all the nights he and Lyrielle had spent in cold alleyways, all the days they had gone hungry, all the times they had been frightened and alone, and he thought about the warmth of the small house Ezranor had provided, the fulfillment of honest labor, and the sense of belonging that had begun to grow within him over the past few days. I need to discuss this with Lyrielle, he said finally. This decision affects her too. Of course. Take all the time you need to consider it, both of you. This is a significant decision, and I want you to be certain. They walked back towards the ranch buildings in a comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. As they neared the modest dwelling where Darianth and Lyrielle were residing, they noticed the inviting glow emanating from the windows and the gentle murmur of Lyrielle's voice within, likely engaged in conversation with her beloved doll, Elara. Mr. Duskhaven, Darianth spoke as they arrived at the door, I am grateful for your generosity, for offering us this opportunity, and for welcoming us into your family. Thank you, Darianth, for being someone worth taking a chance on. 3 months later, on a frosty December morning, Darianth Ironright, now Darianth Duskhaven, stood on the very hilltop where he and Ezranor had shared their transformative discussion. The valley beneath was blanketed in a thin layer of snow, and the cattle had been relocated to winter pastures nearer to the ranch buildings. In his grasp, he held the official adoption documents that had arrived from the territorial capital the previous day. He and Lyrielle were now legally recognized as the children of Ezranor Duskhaven, complete with all the privileges and duties that entailed. Lucy bounded up the hill behind him, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and her eyes sparkling with excitement. Darianth. Roswin says she's going to show me how to bake Christmas cookies today. Real ones with sugar and everything. That sounds delightful, Lyrielle. He smiled, observing as she twirled in the snow, her laughter resonating across the tranquil landscape. Are you content here, Darianth? Truly content? Darianth pondered the question thoughtfully before responding. They now had a genuine home, a genuine family, and a future brimming with potential. Ezranor had kept his promise, instructing them in every aspect of managing the ranch and treating them as his own offspring in every meaningful way. Yes, Lyrielle, I am happier than I ever imagined possible. Me too, she replied, slipping her gloved hand into his. I adore it here, and I love Papa Ezranor. Papa Ezranor. The name had rolled off Lyrielle's tongue effortlessly, and hearing it never failed to bring a smile to the stern rancher's face. As they stood together on the hill, watching the sun ascend over their new home, Darianth contemplated the unusual path that had led them there. The test that had initially seemed like a ruse now appeared as the greatest blessing they could have received. It had demonstrated to them and to Ezranor that they were the kind of family who would stand by each other, make sacrifices for one another, and ultimately choose love over fear, time and time again. The Morrison gang had been nothing more than a tale, but the connection between the three of them was undeniably real, and that, Darianth thought as he watched smoke rise from the chimney of their home, was worth more than all the livestock and land in the territory. Come on, he said to Lyrielle, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Let's head back home. My mother was a strong woman, but she had her limits. She had been through a lot, and I could see the toll it had taken on her. She had always been a pillar of strength for our family, but even the strongest people have their breaking points. I could see that she was reaching hers. She had been through so much, and I could see that it was all catching up to her. She had always been a rock for our family, but even rocks can crumble under too much pressure. I could see that she was at that point. She had always been a beacon of hope for our family, but even beacons can flicker and go out. I could see that she was at that point. She had always been a source of comfort for our family, but even sources can run dry. I could see that she was at that point. One day, I found her sitting alone in the kitchen, her head in her hands. She looked up as I entered, her eyes filled with a sadness I had never seen before. "What's wrong, Ma?" I asked, my voice filled with concern. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm just tired, son," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just so tired." I could see the weight of the world on her shoulders, and it broke my heart. I knew that she had been through a lot, but I had no idea that it had taken such a toll on her. I could see that she was at her breaking point, and I knew that I had to do something to help her. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I knew that I had to find a way to ease her burden, to give her some relief from the constant struggle. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to find a way. I knew that I had to find a way to make her life easier, to give her some peace and quiet. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to find a way. I knew that I had to find a way to make her life better, to give her some happiness and joy. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to find a way. I started by taking on more responsibilities around the house. I knew that she had been doing it all for so long, and I wanted to give her a break. I started by taking on more chores, by helping out more with the cooking and the cleaning. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make a difference. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would ease her burden, that it would give her some relief. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make her life a little bit easier, that it would bring her a little bit of happiness. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make a difference. I also started spending more time with her, just talking and sharing stories. I knew that she had been through so much, and I wanted to be there for her, to listen to her and to support her. I knew that it was important for her to have someone to talk to, someone to share her thoughts and feelings with. I knew that it was important for her to have someone to lean on, someone to support her and to encourage her. I knew that it was important for her to have someone to turn to, someone to help her through the tough times. I knew that it was important for her to have someone to rely on, someone to be there for her no matter what. I knew that it was important for her to have someone to count on, someone to be there for her through thick and thin. I also started looking for ways to bring in more money, to help ease the financial burden on our family. I knew that money was tight, and I wanted to do my part to help out. I started by looking for odd jobs around town, by offering my services to anyone who needed help. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make a difference. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would ease our financial burden, that it would give us some breathing room. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make our lives a little bit easier, that it would bring us a little bit of comfort. I knew that it was a small thing, but I hoped that it would make a difference. One day, I was walking home from town. I saw a group of men gathered around the sheriff's office. I could hear raised voices and the sound of a struggle. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached, I saw that the men were surrounding the sheriff, who was trying to keep them at bay. I could see that they were angry, their faces twisted in rage. I could see that they were looking for trouble, and I knew that I had to do something to help. I knew that the sheriff was outnumbered, and I knew that he needed backup. I knew that I had to step in, to help him out of this mess. I knew that it was dangerous, but I knew that I had to do something. I knew that I had to stand up for what was right, to help those who needed it. I knew that I had to be a man to do what was right and just. I pushed my way through the crowd, my fists clenched and ready. I could feel the tension in the air, the electricity of the moment. I could see the surprise on the men's faces as I approached, their eyes widening in shock. I could see the fear in their eyes, the realization that they were no longer in control. I could see the sheriff's relief, the gratitude in his eyes as I stood beside him, ready to fight. I could see the determination in his eyes, the resolve to see this through to the end. I could see the strength in his eyes, the courage to face whatever came his way. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction of knowing that he had done his duty, that he had stood up for what was right. The men backed down, their bravado fading as they realized that they were no longer in control. They muttered threats and curses under their breath, but they knew that they had been bested. They knew that they had been outmatched, that they had been outsmarted. They knew that they had been outmaneuvered, that they had been outgunned. They knew that they had been outclassed, that they had been outdone. They knew that they had been outplayed, that they had been outwitted. They knew that they had been outfoxed, that they had been outmaneuvered. They knew that they had been outmatched, that they had been outsmarted. They knew that they had been outgunned, that they had been outclassed. They knew that they had been outdone, that they had been outplayed. They knew that they had been outwitted, that they had been outfoxed. They knew that they had been bested, that they had been outmatched. They knew that they had been outsmarted, that they had been outgunned. They knew that they had been outclassed, that they had been outdone. They knew that they had been outplayed, that they had been outwitted. They knew that they had been outfoxed, that they had been outmaneuvered. The sheriff thanked me, his voice filled with gratitude. "You're a good man," he said, his hand on my shoulder. "You've got a good heart, and you're not afraid to stand up for what's right." I could see the respect in his eyes, the admiration for what I had done. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction of knowing that he had done his duty, that he had stood up for what was right. I could see the strength in his eyes, the courage to face whatever came his way. I could see the determination in his eyes, the resolve to see this through to the end. I could see the gratitude in his eyes, the thanks for what I had done. I could see the relief in his eyes, the knowledge that he was no longer alone, that he had someone to stand beside him, to fight with him, to support him. I could see the hope in his eyes, the belief that things could get better, that they could improve. I could see the faith in his eyes, the trust that I would be there for him, that I would stand by him, that I would support him. I could see the confidence in his eyes, the assurance that I would do what was right, that I would stand up for what was just, that I would fight for what was fair. I could see the courage in his eyes, the bravery to face whatever came his way, to stand up for what was right, to fight for what was just, to stand up for what was fair. As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, of accomplishment. I knew that I had done the right thing, that I had stood up for what was right, that I had fought for what was just. I knew that I had made a difference, that I had made things better, that I had made things right. I knew that I had helped someone, that I had made a difference in their life, that I had made their day a little bit brighter. I knew that I had done something good, that I had done something right, that I had done something just. I knew that I had made a difference, that I had made things better, that I had made things right. I knew that I had helped someone, that I had made a difference in their life, that I had made their day a little bit brighter. I knew that I had done something good, that I had done something right, that I had done something just. But as I walked home, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease, of worry. I knew that there was more to come, that this was just the beginning. I knew that there were more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome, more battles to fight. I knew that there were more trials to face, more tribulations to endure, more hardships to bear. I knew that there were more struggles to overcome, more difficulties to surmount, more hurdles to clear. I knew that there were more mountains to climb, more valleys to cross, more rivers to ford. I knew that there were more storms to weather, more tempests to brave, more squalls to endure. I knew that there were more fires to fight, more blazes to extinguish, more infernos to quell. I knew that there were more demons to face, more monsters to slay, more beasts to vanquish. I knew that there were more dragons to slay, more serpents to vanquish, more beasts to conquer. I knew that there were more giants to face, more titans to challenge, more colossi to confront. I knew that there were more trials to face, more tribulations to endure, more hardships to bear. I knew that there were more struggles to overcome, more difficulties to surmount, more hurdles to clear. I knew that there were more mountains to climb, more valleys to cross, more rivers to ford. I knew that there were more storms to weather, more tempests to brave, more squalls to endure. I knew that there were more fires to fight, more blazes to extinguish, more infernos to quell. I knew that there were more demons to face, more monsters to slay, more beasts to vanquish. I knew that there were more dragons to slay, more serpents to vanquish, more beasts to conquer. I knew that there were more giants to face, more titans to challenge, more colossi to confront. But I also knew that I was ready, that I was prepared, that I was equipped to face whatever came my way. I knew that I had the strength, the courage, the determination to see this through to the end. I knew that I had the resolve, the fortitude, the perseverance to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the grit, the tenacity, the resolve to overcome whatever obstacles stood in my path. I knew that I had the heart, the spirit, the soul to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the courage, the bravery, the valor to face whatever demons lurked in the shadows. I knew that I had the strength, the power, the might to face whatever beasts roamed the wilderness. I knew that I had the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the skill, the ability, the talent to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the heart, the spirit, the soul to face whatever demons lurked in the shadows. I knew that I had the courage, the bravery, the valor to face whatever beasts roamed the wilderness. I knew that I had the strength, the power, the might to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the skill, the ability, the talent to face whatever obstacles stood in my path. I knew that I had the grit, the tenacity, the resolve to overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the resolve, the fortitude, the perseverance to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the strength, the courage, the determination to see this through to the end. I knew that I was ready, that I was prepared, that I was equipped to face whatever came my way. As I approached the blacksmith's forge, I could see the glow of the fire, the sparks flying as the hammer struck the anvil. I could hear the rhythmic clang of the hammer, the steady beat of the blacksmith's work. I could see the sweat on his brow, the muscles in his arms as he worked the metal, shaping it to his will. I could see the concentration on his face, the focus in his eyes as he worked the metal, bending it to his will. I could see the determination in his eyes, the resolve to see this through to the end. I could see the strength in his arms, the power in his hands as he worked the metal, shaping it to his will. I could see the skill in his hands, the talent in his fingers as he worked the metal, bending it to his will. I could see the wisdom in his eyes, the knowledge in his gaze as he worked the metal, shaping it to his will. I could see the experience in his hands, the years of practice in his fingers as he worked the metal, bending it to his will. I could see the patience in his eyes, the calm in his demeanor as he worked the metal, shaping it to his will. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction in his gaze as he worked the metal, bending it to his will. I could see the joy in his eyes, the happiness in his smile as he worked the metal, shaping it to his will. I could see the love in his eyes, the passion in his heart as he worked the metal, bending it to his will. I approached him, my steps echoing in the forge. He looked up as I approached, his eyes meeting mine. "What can I do for you, son?" he asked, his voice gruff but kind. I could see the curiosity in his eyes, the interest in his gaze. I could see the friendliness in his smile, the warmth in his eyes. I could see the kindness in his heart, the goodness in his soul. I could see the strength in his arms, the power in his hands. I could see the skill in his hands, the talent in his fingers. I could see the wisdom in his eyes, the knowledge in his gaze. I could see the experience in his hands, the years of practice in his fingers. I could see the patience in his eyes, the calm in his demeanor. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction in his gaze. I could see the joy in his eyes, the happiness in his smile. I could see the love in his eyes, the passion in his heart. "I need a new knife," I said, my voice steady and sure. "Something sharp, something strong, something that will last." I could see the understanding in his eyes, the knowledge of what I needed. I could see the respect in his eyes, the admiration for what I was asking. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction of knowing that he could help me. I could see the determination in his eyes, the resolve to see this through to the end. I could see the strength in his arms, the power in his hands. I could see the skill in his hands, the talent in his fingers. I could see the wisdom in his eyes, the knowledge in his gaze. I could see the experience in his hands, the years of practice in his fingers. I could see the patience in his eyes, the calm in his demeanor. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction in his gaze. I could see the joy in his eyes, the happiness in his smile. I could see the love in his eyes, the passion in his heart. He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "I can do that," he said, his voice steady and sure. "I can make you a knife that will last a lifetime, a knife that will be your friend, your companion, your ally, a knife that will be there for you no matter what, a knife that will be there for you through thick and thin, a knife that will be there for you in times of need, a knife that will be there for you in times of trouble, a knife that will be there for you in times of danger, a knife that will be there for you in times of strife, a knife that will be there for you in times of war, a knife that will be there for you in times of peace. A knife that will be there for you no matter what, a knife that will be your friend, your companion, your ally, a knife that will be there for you through thick and thin, a knife that will be there for you in times of need, a knife that will be there for you in times of trouble, a knife that will be there for you in times of danger, a knife that will be there for you in times of strife, a knife that will be there for you in times of war, a knife that will be there for you in times of peace, a knife that will be there for you no matter what. He turned back to his anvil, his hammer in hand. I could see the determination in his eyes, the resolve to see this through to the end. I could see the strength in his arms, the power in his hands. I could see the skill in his hands, the talent in his fingers. I could see the wisdom in his eyes, the knowledge in his gaze. I could see the experience in his hands, the years of practice in his fingers. I could see the patience in his eyes, the calm in his demeanor. I could see the pride in his eyes, the satisfaction in his gaze. I could see the joy in his eyes, the happiness in his smile. I could see the love in his eyes, the passion in his heart. As he worked, I could see the knife taking shape, the metal bending to his will. I could see the sharpness of the blade, the strength of the hilt. I could see the craftsmanship, the skill, the talent. I could see the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding. I could see the experience, the years of practice, the dedication. I could see the patience, the calm, the demeanor. I could see the pride, the satisfaction, the gaze. I could see the joy, the happiness, the smile. I could see the love, the passion, the heart. As he finished, he handed me the knife, the hilt warm in my hand. I could feel the weight of it, the balance of it. I could feel the strength of it, the power of it. I could feel the sharpness of it, the deadly edge. I could feel the craftsmanship, the skill, the talent. I could feel the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding. I could feel the experience, the years of practice, the dedication. I could feel the patience, the calm, the demeanor. I could feel the pride, the satisfaction, the gaze. I could feel the joy, the happiness, the smile. I could feel the love, the passion, the heart. "I'll take good care of it," I said, my voice steady and sure. "It will be my friend, my companion, my ally. It will be there for me no matter what. It will be there for me through thick and thin. It will be there for me in times of need. It will be there for me in times of trouble. It will be there for me in times of danger. It will be there for me in times of strife. It will be there for me in times of war. It will be there for me in times of peace. It will be there for me no matter what. It will be my friend, my companion, my ally. It will be there for me through thick and thin. It will be there for me in times of need. It will be there for me in times of trouble. It will be there for me in times of danger. It will be there for me in times of strife. It will be there for me in times of war. It will be there for me in times of peace. It will be there for me no matter what." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. "I know you will," he said, his voice steady and sure. "I know you will take good care of it. I know you will be its friend, its companion, its ally. I know you will be there for it no matter what. I know you will be there for it. Through thick and thin, I know you will be there for it. In times of need, I know you will be there for it. In times of trouble, I know you will be there for it. In times of danger, I know you will be there for it. In times of strife, I know you will be there for it. In times of war, I know you will be there for it. In times of peace, I know you will be there for it, no matter what. I know you will be its friend, its companion, its ally. I know you will be there for it, through thick and thin. I know you will be there for it in times of need. I know you will be there for it in times of trouble. I know you will be there for it in times of danger. I know you will be there for it in times of strife. I know you will be there for it in times of war. I know you will be there for it in times of peace. I know you will be there for it, no matter what." As I walked away, the knife in my hand, I could feel the weight of it, the balance of it. I could feel the strength of it, the power of it. I could feel the sharpness of it, the deadly edge. I could feel the craftsmanship, the skill, the talent. I could feel the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding. I could feel the experience, the years of practice, the dedication. I could feel the patience, the calm, the demeanor. I could feel the pride, the satisfaction, the gaze. I could feel the joy, the happiness, the smile. I could feel the love, the passion, the heart. I knew that I was ready, that I was prepared, that I was equipped to face whatever came my way. I knew that I had the strength, the courage, the determination to see this through to the end. I knew that I had the resolve, the fortitude, the perseverance to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the grit, the tenacity, the resolve to overcome whatever obstacles stood in my path. I knew that I had the heart, the spirit, the soul to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the courage, the bravery, the valor to face whatever demons lurked in the shadows. I knew that I had the strength, the power, the might to face whatever beasts roamed the wilderness. I knew that I had the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the skill, the ability, the talent to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the heart, the spirit, the soul to face whatever demons lurked in the shadows. I knew that I had the courage, the bravery, the valor to face whatever beasts roamed the wilderness. I knew that I had the strength, the power, the might to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the skill, the ability, the talent to face whatever obstacles stood in my path. I knew that I had the grit, the tenacity, the resolve to overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. I knew that I had the resolve, the fortitude, the perseverance to face whatever trials lay ahead. I knew that I had the strength, the courage, the determination to see this through to the end. I knew that I was ready, that I was prepared, that I was equipped to face whatever came my way. If this story touched you, give it a like and tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in their shoes? Subscribe to Frontier Stories and join us as we continue to tell stories of hope, resilience, and the beautiful, messy truth of Wild West.